welcome back to the channel. This is Dash Rendar, and on today's video we are going to be testing the latest thing in my armory. So we have here Brigandine armor. Now it's a common misconception that this was used primarily by brigands.
Your money or your life.
Highwaymen.
What we should do? I do know what we should do. Let's go, Mogo!
Things like that. But in reality, it was used commonly in the 13th, 14th, 15th, even 16th century. It was favored by a lot of men-at-arms and archers because of the flexibility. Now, from the front, it just looks like cloth, but if you look around behind it, it has these interwoven plates here. This is 1.5 millimeter, 16 gauge steel. And so the benefit of this was increased flexibility for an archer or for people for mobility. It was cheaper to produce, provided a little bit less protection than like a plate armor. I want to see how it does against the warbow because it was a more common form of protection. What, Henry? What I'm going to do is I'm going to start this with a 135-pound warbow. We're going to be using the bodkin tips, and I'm going to go up to the 155, 65, and then throw the other stuff in the arsenal that I have at it as well to see how it performs. Isn't that right? Yes. Okay. All right. So we have the armor on now. We have the Brigandine, and we have the padded gambeson along with the mail underneath it, and see how it does against that steel armor and see if those separation of plates causes any sort of damage to the integrity of that armor. Ready? Here we go. And knock, draw, and loose. Draw. Loose. Nice, Marcus. You got him.
Loose.
Loose. So as you can see from the results, the first shot bounced off. It went through, but it didn't penetrate all the way. The second two shots were much better. They went through the steel, through the padded gambeson, through the mail, and through the canvas of the dummy. So that first shot went about that deep there. The second one went about there, through it all. So I'm gonna take it off and we can kind of get a look at exactly what the damage was, how much further it went through, and how much protection this would do, and if that hits the actual gaps in the plate or just a straight plate. So what you can see here from it is these are the impact points right here. This one punched through very easily. This one right here, also on the bottom, and this one on top right here. So that went through everything. So it would be enough to stop it from like killing someone, but it would definitely impact you a little bit and it would make it through that armor. All right, so that 135 made short work of it, but I just want to see the difference in it when I get to a heavier poundage, 155-pound bows. I'm still staying relatively close, mainly because the kids are here and it's fun to do with them, but I want to see what this does to that armor with the Bodkin Points again and see if there's any difference in the penetration that it does. All right, so for that series of shots, the first one went through as you saw, but when the second one hit, it hit a similar spot in the plate and it bounced it out a little bit. The penetration, I would say, was about the same, right around there. The tips are starting to get a little dull and if they sharpen that up a little bit. But overall, there was a huge difference between the 135 and the 155. I'm gonna try jump up to the 165 and see if that does anything there. But I don't think it'll be much of a difference. So next up, we're gonna do the 165-pound warbow. I don't think it's gonna make a substantial difference, but it'll be fun to see just if by the off chance, because it's a different type of bone, design, a little shorter, if it's gonna make any difference to the impact of the target and the penetration of the arrow. The results are somewhat similar again. The best of them, they went in and it punched out. Whenever the impact happens, it tend to push it out a little bit. But that one went through about here. So that was actually a little bit better. I think that bow is a little bit newer. It tends to be a little faster and it's got the best speed on it when I've clocked it. So that definitely had the best penetration into the armor. So what would some of the major perks be? Well, for one, it would be better against thrusting as opposed to a riveted mail. If you have a sharp thrusting type weapon, it's gonna stop that. So I got this spear here to kind of demonstrate what that's gonna look like. All right, so what you can see with that spear throw is that hit at this point right here. What that did is it bent that overlapping plate in here, but it didn't puncture through. Now, if that had been mail, even if it was riveted mail, that would have gone through relatively easily. So this is something that is generally pretty lightweight and can defend against a lot, especially if layered with other elements. So additionally, say you were some man at arms and you couldn't afford plate, but a knight was charging you and he had himself a fancy new sword. So if you had just chainmail, you were gonna be in a rough spot because if they puncture through, it's gonna go through the mail and the padded gambeson. But if you have the Brigandine on, it's gonna make all the difference. So you can see the tip here bent in a little bit. It didn't do so much as even dent really the Brigandine armor, the steel plate. So swords really, while they have a majestic aesthetic feel to them, they aren't going to do much against any sort of armor that's not just a padded gambeson and plate, unless, like, you know, you choke it up and send it through the visor gap. All right, so the last thing I'm going to subject this armor to for the day is going to be the throwing axes. Now I just resharpened these. They have a very sharp tip on there, so I want to try and get those rotations just right. So it's coming in this way, and I want to see if that's in fact going to punch through any of that metal, because it's going to have that rotational power of a relatively strong throw. Those tests, you can see here, none of them penetrated through all the way. There's definitely some dents here. This one almost went all the way through in here. It cut through the fabric, but again, as opposed to just having chainmail and a gambeson, this is going to provide the extra protection. So you're going to feel that impact, but it's not going to go through you as deeply. Maybe break a rib at most, but it's going to do good work. Well, the sun is setting, so I'm going to wrap this test up. Overall, the Brigandine did very well against most things, but if I was an archer at that time, this would be the one I would want to go with. It's very flexible. You can definitely shoot a bow in it. You can move well in it. It provides enough protection to stop against most of the stuff's going at the time, and then when you get to those blunt weapons like the maces or the war hammers, it's not going to do much, but it's going to do a lot more than just the standard fanfare that was out there. So overall, this was a ton of fun. I put a little bit of work into my Christmas gift, which is why I buy them. I'm going to repair it, ding it out a little bit, hammer it out to get it back to shape. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, as always, comment, like, and subscribe. I do apologize for the kids in the background, but they are here to have fun, just as you guys are. So I hope you had a good time also, and I will see you in the next video.